why motivation is not the goal, why it's kind of like chasing the horizon, because it's just not worth chasing. Where in terms of the horizon, you'll never actually get there. But when it comes to motivation, let's say like if your goal when it comes to training, you're only going to train when you're motivated. So going to set the expectation that I have to be motivated. I have to want to get out of bed. I have to want to train. I have to want to feel energized. And I have to just love training so much. You may not go that far. And if anything we've seen when it comes to training is you need a lot of time in the game to really pay off those dividends. You get compounding returns, kind of like the S&P 500 index fund. Your boy knows finance. But when it comes to motivation, when it comes to us setting that success, when you make it an expectation that you're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to want to train, you're going to love pushing yourself to failure, giving it your all and then being sore the next day. You're going to wake up the next day and just be like, I can't wait to do that again, with no ever time where you're not going to want to do it, or anytime you aren't feeling excited, you're just not going to show up. Then you're setting yourself up for a lagging amount of consistency. And consistency is the big piece. This is where we see a lot of people where they'll train consistently for, let's say, 4 weeks, super motivated, loving it, and then they stop because it stops being exciting. It stops being new. It stops being super mega progressive. You stop hitting PRs of 5 pounds every week because you're just new to it. It's a new stimulus. Let's say you start archery, you're going to be hitting the blue part of the target. And then like as you get less bad, you're going to start hitting it more towards the center. But once you get good and it's like hitting 10 bullseyes instead of 8, that's a lot harder. And that minimal amount of increase of like outcomes takes a lot of time to actually accrue. So in today's topic, when it comes to setting that as success, like feeling motivated to train, I want to tell you like why that's probably not the goal of what you want to strive for. So I put together some notes. And so there will be a time when it's not exciting, when training is not exciting, when the thing that you want to do is not going to be exciting. There's going to come a time where that's going to come up. And so not setting the expectation that you have to want to do the thing, that's going to allow you to do the thing when you don't want to, which is going to happen a lot. And now you're going to have a lot more training sessions. You're going to have a lot more practice, and you're going to get better at that thing because training isn't exciting. Competing is exciting. Let's say it's basketball. Shooting in an empty gym is not fun. But Kobe Bryant would get up at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and shoot, thousands of shots on a daily basis. And so there was a quote recently. It was Steph Curry, I think, has shot like hundreds of thousands of shots in his career in practice to make 3,000 shots in actual games. So the games are the fun part. It's the training, those things that get less exciting, that make you kind of that puts you in that proficiency level. And so the goal is not to feel motivated. And so when it comes to, let's say, the training piece is when you're relying on motivation, and you will be motivated probably the first couple of weeks in terms of whatever you want to do, because you're going to get better quicker and quicker. And that's really fun. But eventually it slows down. You're getting better slower. You're not hitting weekly PRs. You're not getting just leaps and bounds of new moves or techniques. And then you start slowly getting better. And it gets boring. But that is actually a good thing. When something starts getting boring, that's when you start becoming an expert. Because I don't think that Kobe Bryant was like, wow, this basketball thing is super fun when he was, hundreds of thousands of shots deep. He was like, okay, this is kind of like the basics are boring because they never change. Shooting a quality shot, having good technique doesn't change. In terms of fitness, thermodynamics isn't changing. Progressive overload is not changing. So when those get boring, that's a good thing. That's showing that you're moving out of beginnership. You're getting into more of an intermediate or advanced. So it's good when these things get boring because what needs to get done never changes. And so that is why the goal is not to be motivated. But to get to exceptional, we need to allow the thing to actually get boring for us, which is actually a good thing. So when it comes to just the motivation in general is like, if you set yourself up to only act motivated, the goal should not be to be motivated, because there will be a time when motivation does not show up for you. It's kind of like that flaky friend that we're going to hang out on Friday. Can't wait to go out. We're going to have a great time. And then Thursday or even Friday morning, they text you and like, oh, never mind. It's like something came up or like stubbed my toe. And it's kind of flaky. It's never there when you need it. Motivation's never there when you need it. So why don't we rely on a different resource than actual motivation? And so what could that be? And so we want to talk a little bit about, let me get you guys set up on this screen share, but we're going to talk a little bit about the other resource that's more useful to have. So the other resource that's going to be better for us over the long term. And what that's going to be is going to be, it's going to be discipline once I get the text box. And so it's going to be important to have discipline. And I know that discipline is a buzzword. I find it kind of a buzzword right now. Everyone's like saying like, oh, discipline's really important. But like not a lot of people actually say like what it means. And my favorite definition of discipline, so discipline, this comes from Chase Hughes. And he says, discipline is prioritizing your future self over your current self, even if we piss our current self off. And so I love this label of discipline because in a way, kind of like the way to simplify it, something that I love is going to be doing your future self a favor. So discipline is just doing your future self a favor. And so when it comes to having discipline, a lot of people just say, I don't identify as a person who has discipline. I'm not a disciplined person. And so I want to challenge you on that. So I'm not a disciplined person. I bet that I think you're full of crap because you have things in your life that you're already disciplined at. Do you need to be motivated to do the laundry, to brush your teeth, to take out the garbage? No. To take a shower. And I'm just assuming here, I'm just going to make an assumption that you probably do at least one of the 4 things on a routine basis. It's 25% maybe. And so you don't need motivation to do these things, but you already do them on a routine basis. And you don't feel motivated to brush your teeth, to take out the garbage, to shower, but you're doing your future self a favor. And that is not smelling bad. So the future self favor we're doing by doing these things that may be an inconvenience in the short term, what we are doing is we're doing a favor to our future self. So that's one of my favorite definitions. So discipline is pretty much just doing your future self a favor, even if it's inconvenient in the short term. And so when you take out the garbage, you brush your teeth, when you take showers, those are just doing your future self a favor of not smelling bad. And so we do these things even when we're not, quote unquote, motivated. And so even in the case of, let's say, yeah, so you don't want the house to stink. The long-term goal is not to have the house stink. So you take out the trash and we take out the trash to make sure that the future favor is that the house doesn't smell bad. So you don't have a stinky house. So that's why I feel that discipline is going to be a much more useful resource. So when we use these frames, and like also everyone here is probably a disciplined person in some way. So when there's a habit or some routine you actually want to develop, think of it in those terms of like, how do I just stack that with brushing my teeth, taking showers, et cetera, things that are just not fun to do. Like, how can I just stack these habits with those and actually start seeing consistency and discipline in the up days, the down days, when I want to do it, when I don't want to do it. And that's going to lead you to more long-term success than doing it just when you feel like this is super exciting and I'm super motivated, because you're not going to be motivated every morning if you want to get up early at like 4 a.m. Not every training session either. So I hope that this is helpful for everybody watching, because it's just kind of like my perspective on discipline and how that's kind of changed over the years. But I think the most useful framework for me is just relating to what are things that you already do consistently, even when you want to do them, when you don't want to do them, and then when you're trying to make a habit of practicing basketball, ice skating. Don't know why that just came up. But if you're trying to make these habits and getting better at something else, sprinting, running, jogging, you're not going to want to do them every time. But when you think of it like, oh, it's like brushing my teeth. I don't want to brush my teeth. It's not a fun thing to do, but it's something I feel needs to be done. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys, and hopefully you can take some action steps from that. But that is kind of why chasing motivation is kind of like chasing the horizon, because it's just not worth it, and you'll never really actually get there or stay there.